Chapter 1. The Arrival. Ambassador Elena Reyes sat alone in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, her expression calm yet resolute. Around her, the vast amphitheater curved in concentric rings, filled with council representatives from every corner of the known galaxy. They whispered among themselves, their tones disbelieving, their alien faces locked in a variety of astonished stares. Some murmured in their native tongues, reverberating around the chamber, a chorus of voices thick with disapproval. Elena let the hum wash over her gaze steady on the figure who stood before her, High Chancellor of Sor. Sor loomed above her, cloaked in shimmering robes that flickered in shades of midnight blue and emerald, his regal bearing radiating authority honed over centuries. His elongated features were unreadable, but his gaze held a restrained anger. For the first time in his long tenure, a planet had openly defied the Council's directive. Ambassador Reyes, Sor's voice echoed, deep and commanding, yet taut with irritation. Are you certain you understand the implications of Earth's decision? Elena met his gaze without flinching. I do, Chancellor. Humanity has chosen autonomy over subservience. We will not submit. The murmurs around the chamber surged into shocked exclamations, some council members raising their appendages or antennae in disbelief. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had functioned as the galaxy's guiding force, ensuring order among civilizations and protecting their interests. Integration into the Council meant access to shared resources, advanced technologies, and protection, but also the loss of planetary sovereignty. Until now, no world had ever declined the Council's offer. Chancellor Vzor's expression tightened, and his gaze swept the chamber, his composure momentarily shaken by the human's defiance. Ambassador Reyes, he continued, his voice colder now, your planet's leaders must understand that rejecting this offer is unwise. The Council's governance ensures peace. An alliance with us is a privilege. Elena's jaw clenched, but she maintained her diplomatic tone. Humanity values peace, Chancellor, but not at the expense of freedom. Our independence is non-negotiable. A ripple of disapproval coursed through the assembled delegates. From the front row, a tall, spindly alien representative, his skin a pale shade of blue with intricate markings, leaned forward. Your people are primitive, Ambassador. Without the Council's support, Earth will struggle to survive the threats beyond its atmosphere. Why cling to pride when cooperation offers so much more? Elena's gaze flickered toward him, her eyes unwavering. Perhaps the Council underestimates us. Humanity has endured countless challenges alone. This isn't the first time we've been told survival was beyond our reach. Her words cut through the chamber, sparking a renewed wave of incredulous murmurs. To these advanced civilizations, the human race was still emerging, barely a century into interstellar travel, its technology crude by galactic standards. Earth was a newcomer, vulnerable yet bold. Her words carried a weight of defiance unfamiliar to the Council. Chancellor Sor raised a slender hand, silencing the chamber. This is not merely about survival, Ambassador. Your world's refusal risks destabilizing the order we have upheld for millennia. If Earth rejects the Council's guidance, what message does that send to other planets? Elena felt a pang of pressure, but refused to let it show. She knew that her people's decision was audacious, but it had not been made lightly. Behind closed doors, Earth's leaders had debated every angle of the Council's offer, considering the advantages of joining, but ultimately rejecting the notion of giving up their freedom in exchange for security. We do not wish to undermine the Council's authority, she replied, her voice steady. Our decision is about defining our own path. Humanity has fought long and hard to achieve independence, and we are not prepared to give it up now, no matter the risks. For a moment, silence filled the chamber as her words hung heavy in the air. Sor's jaw tightened, a flicker of anger breaking his practiced facade. Then you leave us with little choice, Ambassador. If Earth will not accept our offer of peaceful integration, the Council will be forced to implement sanctions. Elena's heartbeat quickened, but she met his stare, refusing to waver. Sanctions or not, Earth will stand by its choice. We would rather face isolation than relinquish our sovereignty. A hiss of displeasure escaped from the representative beside Vsor, an elder from a species known for its logical precision. This decision could cripple your planet, Ambassador. Cut off from our networks, your world will struggle to thrive. You risk not only your people's prosperity, but their safety. Elena took a slow breath, feeling the weight of Earth's future in every eye fixed upon her. Her role as an ambassador had always been one of negotiation, of seeking compromise, but this was different. She was here not to compromise, but to defend her people's right to self-determination, a right the Council seemed unable to fathom. Humanity has faced hardship before, she replied, her voice resonant with conviction. We will not be intimidated. Zora's eyes narrowed, his posture rigid. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in the cold, calculated gaze of the Council's leader. In all his centuries, he had never encountered a species willing to turn down the Council's protection. Her defiance, her people's audacity, threw him off balance. He looked to his fellow Council members, a silent question in his eyes. Without waiting for a response, Elena continued, her voice firm. The Council may see us as reckless or naive, but our choice is not made in ignorance. Humanity will take its own risks, face its own challenges. We choose freedom, even if that choice comes at a cost. The chamber was silent, a vacuum of tension filling the air. Sor clenched his jaw, and his gaze hardened, a silent promise of repercussions. But Elena held his stare, a quiet determination emanating from her, unbreakable. As the Council's deliberations erupted into frantic whispers and hurried translations, Elena remained seated, resolute, knowing the path she'd chosen was fraught with peril. She didn't know what the Council would decide, but she was certain of one thing. Humanity would not bow. Chapter 2. Unseen Consequences. Elena's shuttle hummed as it carried her away from the Galactic Council's colossal chamber, her gaze fixed on the star-streaked view beyond the viewport. She watched as the Council's crystalline spires receded into the distance, her mind still buzzing with the weight of Earth's decision. Her hands were steady, but a part of her felt the gravity of what she'd done, the tension of thousands of eyes now focused on her home planet, watching to see how humanity would navigate this dangerous path. As the shuttle entered Earth's orbit, her communicator flashed, snapping her out of her reverie. The familiar face of Commander Jacob Haynes appeared on the screen, his sharp gaze assessing her, as if searching for some hidden hesitation. "How did it go?" he asked, his tone even but tinged with concern. Elena gave him a thin smile, unwilling to show any uncertainty. As well as could be expected, the Council is unsettled. Unsettled. He arched an eyebrow. From what we've seen, they don't take defiance lightly. She met his gaze, unflinching. They don't. But that's precisely why we can't afford to back down now, Jacob. If we give in, we lose everything. Jacob nodded, but his frown deepened. The Council sanctions could cripple us, Elena. Our defenses rely on limited technology, and we're still years behind their capabilities. They control most of the galaxy's trade routes. They could cut off our supply lines. Elena's expression hardened, and she felt the weight of her own words from the Council chamber echo within her. Then we'll adapt. Humanity has always thrived under pressure. If they want us to be dependent, we'll prove we can stand on our own. Jacob regarded her in silence for a moment, a reluctant respect glimmering in his eyes. I hope you're right. Our leaders are behind you, but the people, they'll need reassurance. This choice could send shockwaves across Earth. The shuttle landed on the command station's docking bay, and Elena stepped out, her stride purposeful. She had expected resistance, but she knew the challenge now lay in unifying humanity behind this decision. Together, she and Jacob walked through the sterile corridors of the orbital command station, passing officers and technicians who glanced at her with a mix of curiosity and admiration. As they entered the conference room, a holographic map of Earth and its surrounding territories flickered to life at the center of the table. Several military and diplomatic advisors were already seated, their faces solemn as they turned to her. Elena took her place at the head, her presence commanding the room's attention. General D'Amato, a veteran strategist with a streak of white in his hair and a hard, calculating gaze broke the silence. Ambassador, I trust you understand what the Council's sanctions will mean for our defenses. Our technology still relies heavily on their resources, especially in energy and shielding capabilities. If they cut off our access, we'll be exposed. Elena's voice was steady as she replied, I understand, General. But I believe this is a risk we have to take. We've been dependent on their aid for too long, allowing them leverage over us. It's time we forge our own path. He studied her, his jaw tightening. Then we need a new strategy, one that accounts for the possibility of an attack. If the Council sees us as a threat to their order, they might not stop its sanctions. They could deploy forces to pacify us. A murmur of concern rippled through the room, but Elena raised a hand to quiet them. We've prepared for this. Earth has been building defenses in secret. Underground bunkers, encrypted communication networks, even weapons designed to withstand extraterrestrial forces. Our engineers have been working tirelessly for months. Her revelation brought a flicker of surprise to their faces, but Jacob nodded in confirmation. It's true. While we still rely on the Council for certain technologies, we've made significant progress. We've been quietly developing countermeasures, and with a few more adjustments, we could have a system robust enough to hold our own. General D'Amato's eyes sharpened with interest. So there's a chance we could withstand them, at least long enough to show them we're serious. Elena nodded, her gaze firm. Exactly. If we demonstrate resilience, they might hesitate to engage us directly. But we need to ensure our people are ready. The Council's reach extends into trade and communications. Once they tighten their grip, even our food supplies could be at risk. We'll need to activate reserves, establish alternative food sources, and secure water. Her words settled over the room like a weight, the reality of their situation sinking in. Earth was about to face one of its greatest challenges yet, a battle not fought on a battlefield but through sanctions, deprivation, and resilience. One of the younger diplomats, a man named Kieran, spoke up, his voice trembling with concern. Ambassador, what if they attempt a blockade? We're only just beginning to develop our interstellar travel capabilities. We can't outmaneuver them in space. Elena took a breath, steadying herself. She had anticipated this fear. Then we'll turn to what we excel at, adaptability. Humanity has survived plagues, wars, disasters. We're survivors by nature. If we have to make do with less, we'll find a way. And if we need allies, we'll reach out to other planets, perhaps those who share our desire for independence. Jacob nodded in agreement. We're not alone in wanting autonomy. There are species within the Council who feel repressed, who may be willing to ally with us if we can offer them a real chance at freedom. The room fell silent as Elena looked around at each face, seeing both doubt and determination. She knew the road ahead was perilous, but the spirit of resilience in her people was unmistakable. From now on, every move we make must be calculated, she said. We cannot afford missteps. The Council believes humanity is weak, that we're reliant on them. Let's prove that we're capable of far more than they ever expected. General D'Amato leaned forward, his gaze hard with conviction. Then let's prepare, Ambassador. We'll fortify our defenses, rally our people, and show the galaxy that humanity won't be intimidated. Elena allowed herself a small smile, a spark of hope kindling within her. The Council would not crush them so easily. Humanity had been underestimated before, and they'd risen each time, defying the odds. As she left the room, a sense of calm determination settled over her. The Council's sanctions would be harsh, perhaps even brutal. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity's resolve was stronger than they could imagine. Chapter 3. A World on Edge. The weight of Earth's new reality pressed down like a storm cloud as Elena watched news feeds from across the globe flash on her monitor. Humanity's march toward independence had ignited a firestorm of emotions, ranging from fervent support to wary skepticism. Entire cities had erupted in protests, some in favor, others fearful of what this defiance would bring. The Council's retaliatory sanctions were starting to ripple through supply chains, causing shortages that were quickly becoming apparent in daily life. Elena ran a hand through her hair, exhausted yet resolute. Her communicator chirped, and Jacob's voice came through, clipped and urgent. Turn on Channel 6. You need to see this. With a knot forming in her stomach, Elena clicked over to the broadcast. A live feed displayed a council cruiser hovering menacingly near Earth's outer atmosphere, its silver hull gleaming ominously in the sunlight. Around it, smaller scout vessels flitted like aggressive hornets, close enough to intimidate, but maintaining just enough distance to avoid open conflict. They've initiated the blockade, Jacob said, his voice a taut whisper over the line. No ships are getting in or out. They're attempting to choke us off without firing a shot. A chill swept through her. The council was sending a clear message. They were done with warnings. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself. We anticipated this. How are our defenses holding? Still functional, but stretched thin, Jacob replied. General D'Amato is coordinating with other stations to set up countermeasures. But if they decide to get aggressive, we might not be able to fend them off indefinitely. Elena's mind raced. The situation was escalating faster than they'd expected. Earth was equipped with hidden missile silos and advanced jamming systems, but they had yet to be tested against a force as formidable as the Council's fleet. She could feel the tension radiating from Jacob, and it mirrored her own. They were towing a line, caught between submission and a fight for survival. We need to address the public, Jacob. If we don't keep them informed, fear will spiral out of control, she said, her tone firm. Agreed. I've arranged for a global broadcast. The people need to see that we're standing strong. Moments later, Elena stood before a camera in the command center, the planetary crest of Earth proudly displayed behind her. She took a steadying breath, focusing on the message she needed to deliver to the billions watching, their lives hanging in the balance. Citizens of Earth, she began, her voice strong and unwavering. Today, we face a challenge unlike any we have encountered. The Galactic Council, through fear and control, seeks to make us bow. But we are no longer the civilization that stumbles in the shadows of greater empires. We are a people of resilience, of innovation, and of courage. The transmission screen showed glimpses of crowds gathering in city squares, their faces somber but attentive. Elena knew she had to rally them, not just with words, but with conviction that matched the Council's threats. We may face shortages, isolation, even the threat of force, she continued, but remember, our strength lies within us. We have prepared for this, and we will adapt as we always have. We will grow stronger because of it. If they seek to isolate us, we will build bridges among ourselves. And if they try to break us, we will show them that humanity does not falter. The screen cut to scenes of people cheering, fists raised in defiance. But Elena knew the situation was more fragile than any public show of unity could convey. The Council's blockade was only the beginning. As the broadcast ended, Jacob approached her, his face both proud and wary. You gave them hope, Elena, but we're still on borrowed time. She nodded, her expression grave. Hope is just the beginning. We need action. Just then, a low hum reverberated through the command center, followed by the blaring of alarms. Red lights flashed as officers scrambled, monitoring incoming alerts from their stations. General D'Amato stormed in, his eyes sharp with urgency. Elena, Jacob, we have a situation. A council vessel just crossed the perimeter near one of our research stations on the lunar surface. They're probing our defenses. Jacob tensed. Are they armed? Not visibly, but they've deployed drones around the perimeter. It's a show of force. Testing our response, D'Amato replied, his tone laced with irritation. Elena's eyes narrowed. They're baiting us. If we engage, they'll have an excuse to escalate this into a full-blown conflict. But if we let them push us around, it'll only embolden them. D'Amato's voice was steely. Our silence could be seen as weakness. We can't afford to play their game. Elena clenched her fists, caught between the need to protect and the danger of provoking retaliation. But if she was certain of anything, it was that humanity couldn't afford to blink now. Deploy our signal jammers, she commanded, her voice firm. Block their drones from transmitting data back to the Council. Make it clear that we're watching, and we're prepared to defend ourselves, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary. The officers moved quickly, relaying her orders. On the view screens, they watched as the council drones hovered in confusion, unable to transmit any data. The tension in the room was palpable as everyone waited, breath held, for the council's next move. After several tense minutes, the drones began to retreat, pulling back toward the council vessel, which in turn glided back beyond Earth's perimeter. The command center erupted into a murmur of relief. D'Amato exhaled, his expression one of grim satisfaction. They know we're not going to be intimidated. Elena turned to him, her gaze resolute. This isn't the end. They'll keep pressing, looking for any vulnerability they can exploit. We need to prepare for worse. Jacob's voice was low, almost a whisper. And if worse comes, Elena, are we prepared to face that? Elena held his gaze, the weight of the question settling over her. If we're not, then all of this is for nothing. We've chosen this path, Jacob. Now we walk it. As the command center quieted, she looked out through the massive viewport, where the stars stretched across the blackness of space. Somewhere beyond them, the council was regrouping, recalculating its next move. She felt the enormity of it, the small, fierce resolve of humanity standing against a power that spanned galaxies. But her people were prepared. Whatever lay ahead, they would meet it with unwavering resolve. As the last of the council vessels faded into the void, Elena felt a flicker of hope reignite within her. The council had tried to intimidate them, and they'd answered with strength and restraint. They were still standing. For now. Chapter 4. The Price of Defiance. The council's fleet loomed, an unbroken line of sleek, glinting warships encircling Earth from above. Elena stood in the command center, her gaze locked on the monitor as the gravity of the moment settled on her shoulders. Despite the council's intimidating show of force, Earth had refused to submit. The choice had rallied humanity, but now the real cost of their defiance would be measured. Jacob leaned over the console beside her, tension etched on his face. The council sent an ultimatum, he said, voice barely a whisper. They're demanding full surrender by midnight, or they'll commence a planetary assault. Elena's jaw tightened. And if we don't, they'll activate a containment field, a weapon they claim will immobilize any planetary defense systems and paralyze essential infrastructure. It would bring us to our knees without a single shot fired. Her eyes narrowed. The council's strategy was clear. Crush them without provoking the sympathy of the wider galaxy. But they'd underestimated one thing. Earth wasn't alone. Since humanity's stand, whispers of support had trickled in from dissident factions and outliers across the galactic frontiers. Elena took a deep breath. Then we call in every favor. Activate the deep space transmitters. Make it clear to our allies and sympathizers that Earth is under imminent threat. A murmur spread through the command center. Officers scrambled to send encrypted messages across the stars, each transmission a lifeline. Still, there was no certainty in allies who could be hours, even days away. If Earth fell now, it would fall alone. Jacob placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Are you ready for this? She turned to him, meeting his gaze with a fire she hoped would mask her own uncertainty. I'm ready. And so is every person on this planet. They returned their focus to the monitors as the council's fleet edged closer. Seconds felt like hours as they waited, tension radiating through every inch of the command center. Then, abruptly, the screen shifted, an incoming transmission from the council's flagship, the Indomitable. The face of Counselor Krelek filled the screen, his expression one of cool disdain. His gray skin was taut, his eyes unreadable slits. He regarded Elena with a mixture of amusement and pity. Director Elena Torres of Earth, he began, his tone dripping with false civility. Your resistance is admirable, but futile. The Council has been patient, but we will tolerate this defiance no longer. Stand down, or Earth will face consequences beyond your imagination. Elena's jaw tightened. She knew the weight of her words now would define humanity's fate. She stepped forward, standing tall. Counselor Krelek, Earth is no longer an empire's colony. We are a sovereign people. We are prepared to defend ourselves, and we are not alone in this fight. Others across the galaxy, see the Council for what it truly is, a tyranny hiding behind the guise of order. We will resist you, and we will prevail. Krelek's mouth twitched in a semblance of a smile. A speech, how quaint. But you're mistaken. This is not an invitation to negotiate. Your allies are scattered and disorganized. Earth stands alone. Midnight, Director. We will show no mercy. The screen went dark, leaving a hollow silence in its wake. Elena released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Midnight was mere hours away. We'll need to prepare for the worst, she said, turning to General D'Amato. Activate every defense protocol. Reinforce key installations. Evacuate civilians to the secure zones. The command center erupted into a flurry of activity as orders were relayed across the planet. Elena remained rooted, her gaze never straying from the viewport where the Council fleet hung, ominous and silent. As the hours ticked down, reports flooded in. Across Earth, cities buzzed with activity as citizens moved to shelters, barricaded strategic points, and armed themselves. Humanity had unified like never before, yet Elena knew they were staring down impossible odds. Finally, just minutes before midnight, a new signal blinked on the monitor, a message from a nearby system. Elena's heart raced. Against all odds, allies had answered their call. The transmission connected, revealing the face of Captain Vera, a seasoned leader of a rebel faction that had long fought in the shadows against the Council's tyranny. Her rugged features and sharp gaze reflected years of hard-won battles. Earth, this is Captain Vera of the Free Horizon Fleet, she said, her voice steady. We've received your call and have mobilized as quickly as we could. We're en route with what forces we can muster. We may be outnumbered, but we'll fight by your side. Elena's heart swelled with a fierce hope. Thank you, Captain. We've prepared our defenses, but any help is welcome. You're not alone, Elena, Vera replied. We've suffered the Council's oppression long enough. The galaxy needs a new beacon of hope, and Earth has given us that. Hold the line. We'll be there. The screen cut out, leaving the command center buzzing with newfound energy. The knowledge that allies were on the way was a light in the darkness, a glimmer of hope amid the Council's tightening grasp. As the clock struck midnight, the first salvo hit. The Indomitable unleashed a shockwave that rippled through the atmosphere, testing Earth's defenses. Buildings shuddered, lights flickered, but the shields held firm. D'Amato barked orders, coordinating defense arrays to intercept incoming fire. Elena watched as Earth's defenses roared to life, batteries lighting up the sky in a fierce display. The Council ships retaliated, beams slicing through space as explosions blossomed against the dark. The battle was chaos and beauty, a desperate struggle for survival. Elena's pulse thundered as reports poured in, detailing both their successes and the inevitable losses. But for every defensive blow the Council struck, humanity struck back, fierce and undeterred. And then, like the breaking of dawn, the first wave of Earth's allies appeared on the horizon, streaks of light against the vast expanse of space. Vera's fleet dove into the fray, engaging the Council ships with a fury born of shared purpose. Earth, we're with you. Vera's voice came through the comm, strong and resolute. The sight of allied ships joining the fight bolstered Elena's spirit. Earth wasn't alone, and neither was the galaxy. As the combined forces clashed with the Council's fleet, the tide began to shift. Council ships, designed to intimidate rather than endure, faltered under the relentless assault. Krelek's overconfidence had been his undoing, and the Council fleet, once an unbreakable wall, began to crumble. After hours of fierce fighting, the Council's forces retreated, their formation breaking under the onslaught. A cheer erupted through the command center as the last of the enemy ships disappeared beyond Earth's orbit. Elena sank into her chair, exhaustion and relief flooding her veins. Earth had withstood the Council's might and won. In that moment, Elena knew the galaxy had changed forever. Earth's stand had ignited a flame of resistance, a beacon of hope for countless worlds. The Council's reign of fear had been fractured, and the universe would never be the same. As she looked out at the battered but victorious fleet, Elena felt a fierce pride and an unbreakable resolve. Humanity had chosen its path, and no power in the galaxy could force them from it. They had won their freedom, and with it a place among the stars.